Let's be honest, this story didn't blow up because people hate cookbooks. It blew up because people are tired. Tired of celebrities walking into industries they haven't put time into, slapping their name on it, and expecting instant respect. When news started circulating that Meghan Markle was eyeing a cooking book project, it didn't land as exciting or inspiring. For many people, especially those who actually cook for a living, it landed as another glossy rebrand attempt. And when a respected chef publicly joked about celebrity cookbooks recently, people connected the dots fast. The laughter wasn't just about humor, it was frustration disguised as comedy. In the culinary world, credibility matters more than almost anywhere else. Cooking isn't just vibes, plating, or pretty kitchens. It's repetition, failure, burns, long hours, and technical skill. That's why many chefs have been increasingly vocal about their discomfort with celebrity-driven cookbooks that feel more like branding exercises than genuine contributions. So when Meghan Markle's name entered that conversation, it wasn't about her personally, it was about what she represents to critics: influence without apprenticeship, spotlight without seasoning, aesthetics without depth. Here's the part a lot of fans don't want to hear. This skepticism isn't new, and it isn't random. The cookbook market is brutally competitive. Every recipe is tested multiple times. Every measurement matters. Readers expect that if they follow your instructions, the food will work. Professional chefs stake their reputations on that trust. So when a public figure known more for lifestyle curation than culinary training steps into that space, chefs naturally ask, where is the proof? Where is the body of work? Where is the kitchen resume? That's why that chef's joke hits so hard. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't personal. It was observational. The audience laughed because they recognized the pattern. Famous face, carefully lit kitchen, vague storytelling, and recipes that feel secondary to the image. And in Meghan's case, critics argue that this pattern mirrors her past ventures. Beautifully presented, carefully narrated, but often light on concrete expertise. The food world, unlike fashion or wellness, doesn't forgive that easily. What makes this moment different is timing. The public mood has shifted. People are more critical of influencer culture. They want substance. They want to know why you're qualified, not just why you're famous. And chefs, people who've spent decades perfecting their craft, are no longer quietly rolling their eyes. They're speaking up. They're using humor, yes, but humor with teeth. That's why the joke spread. That's why it resonated. And that's why Meghan's cooking book idea is facing more pushback than praise. Another uncomfortable truth? Cooking is deeply cultural. Recipes carry history, identity, and labor. When critics talk about manufactured expertise, they're talking about the feeling that some projects are assembled by teams rather than lived by the person whose name is on the cover. Meghan's critics argue that her brand has leaned heavily on presentation and narrative, sometimes at the expense of depth. Whether you agree or not, that perception exists, and perception is everything in publishing. Supporters will say, anyone can cook. And that's true. But not everyone can authoritatively teach millions of people how to cook. A cookbook isn't a diary, it's a manual. And chefs feel protective of that distinction. The joke wasn't about Meghan failing at cooking. It was about the industry being flooded with titles that don't respect the discipline. In that sense, Meghan just became the most visible symbol of a larger problem. This is where the backlash becomes less about Meghan and more about credibility economics. Publishers chase names. Algorithms reward familiarity. But readers are catching on. They're asking harder questions. And chefs are backing them up. When a respected voice laughs at the idea of celebrity cookbooks, it signals something deeper: the gatekeepers aren't asleep anymore. And let's not ignore public reaction online. The response wasn't outrage, it was agreement. Comment sections weren't defending Meghan's culinary skills, they were questioning why fame keeps substituting for expertise. That's dangerous territory for any public figure trying to pivot into a new industry. Because once people stop believing in the why, the project collapses under its own branding. So no, this isn't about bullying. This isn't about jealousy. This is about standards. The chef's joke was funny because it was true to many people's lived experience with celebrity products that overpromise and underdeliver. And for Meghan Markle, stepping into the cooking world at this moment means walking into a room that's already skeptical, already exhausted, and no longer impressed by a beautiful story alone.